Okay, well, welcome back to the Get the Picture podcast. It's been a while, and we are so back. Today, I'm joined really special guest, Grant Wilson. He is the manager of the healthcare vertical at ColorID. They've been a great partner of ours over the years. Grant's a great person to work with, has a lot of experience in the industry. So, Grant, we are very excited to have you here today.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. It's a great opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So Grant, one thing I love to do, and I know I didn't share this as we prepared, but I like to do a game of overrated, underrated. Okay. So
Okay.
I'm going to give you a word and you have to tell me if it's overrated or underrated. And then we'll get into our questions after that. So just a chance for people to get to know you a little bit.
I think that's fair.
Okay. So first word. Well, I guess it's a few words. The NFL playoffs, overrated or underrated?
Oh, I'd say underrated. I'm an NFL fan. Maybe it's overrated from the stance that I'm a Steelers fan, and they got treated pretty poorly in the playoffs or didn't perform very well. And of course, then our boy Mike Tomlin stepped down as well. So I'm still licking the wounds from that. But I'd say underrated. I enjoy the playoffs. Across many sports, if you will.
Yeah. Likewise. I watched the entirety of the Bills and Jaguars game. My family, my wife's family's in Canada. They live in Canada. So they're big Bills fans. And that was, there were some really good games that weekend. I mean, every game across the board was close.
Almost, leading up to Monday night.
Yeah, except for that weekend.
That didn't go well.
The Steelers game. Yeah.
Well, being in Charlotte, the Panthers are my surrogate team, and I thought they did really well. I was very encouraged by how they played, and certainly an uptick going into next year too. So that provided some solace.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so next one, New Year's resolutions.
Overrated. I think you're almost bound for disappointment when you say, I'm going to start on January 1, I'm going to do this. And if the last 3 weeks you're lucky. I talked to my children, and the youngest one in school, and she said, well, I'm going to start on Friday or Monday. I'm going to do this. I'm like, well, we could also start today. That would work.
Yeah.
And try and put it into place. So I would say overrated.
Okay. That's fair. Okay. The winter, just the season in general, winter.
Well, I would say it's overrated. I mean, I grew up in Ohio. I spent a year in Maine. Love the snow. I enjoy my older brother who lives in Maine taking pictures and sending it to me. And that's generally enough. So, I felt like I've done enough. If we get some snow here and it's around for a day or two, then it melts. That's awesome. I'm very happy. But I think, you grew up in the north there and kicking the stuff off the tire wells and, locks freezing up and all that good stuff. I don't miss that very much.
I liked it a lot more when I could go snowboarding whenever I wanted. So I grew up in Ohio as well. And my grandfather would take me, I was homeschooled, till middle school. And so he'd pick me up and take me snowboarding. And that, those were the years of winter that I loved. But now that I can't go out and I don't get to go snowboarding all the time anymore, it's definitely not as fun.
Yeah, now I can remember and I'm old enough to remember the blizzard of 78, barely. Those are some great times, now when we were up in Maine and having a little one and, it took them 25 minutes to get bundled up and they were out there for about 15 minutes and then back inside. That was a little more tasking, but, as younger kids, even myself, I have a greater appreciation.
For sure. Okay, last one, rebadges. Overrated, underrated?
I don't know if I can say both. Underrated. There's a lot that goes into rebadging, especially in healthcare. When you get into, if you wanted to have remote photo medical center now be remote photo health, there's a lot that goes into that. And maybe the least of which at the end is the badges themselves, from signage to websites to, so there's a lot that goes into it. I don't have any PTSD at this point through rebadging, but and maybe the remote photo solution has helped me in that regard. So it can be a Herculean task, but I think if you're set up correctly for it, understand what you're getting into. It doesn't have to take days off your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we'll get into that a little, into the details more of rebadges, bit of a teaser. But there, like you said, there's like, it sounds simple on face value, but when you get into it, there's a lot of details, a lot of things to manage, a lot of things got to go right to pull off a superb rebadge. So, okay, shifting to the questions. As I've gotten to know more people in the industry, I find out that it wasn't their childhood dream, to work in the security industry. A lot of people, love it, love their job. But I always like to ask, how did you get started in the security industry? How'd you end up with the job that you have?
I'd say it was a little bit of luck and a large amount of respect for the healthcare industry in general. I worked in that space previously, albeit in a different role. So I've kind of traded blood analyzers for badges, if you will. But I've always felt like it's one of the, maybe not last noble industries, but certainly noble in that regard. Security, and we deal, you think of security with badges and so on, but it's almost a 50-50 mix in some regards regarding HR professionals and security professionals. A lot of ping pong going back and forth. I wasn't surprised, but really encouraged just how seriously security and HR take their jobs. And I think that kind of bleeds over. They know they're in that healthcare space, looking after patients, looking after staff, looking after the visitors, both on the HR side and security. So, when ColorID offered me the opportunity, I was traveling a bit more. So it was a little more quality of life. I think I was at a practice in Little Rock, Arkansas, and speaking with somebody about hematology analyzers. And she said, well, what are you doing? I'm like, well, we're here talking about analyzers. She's like, your kids are there. They were probably 12 and 8 at the time. They didn't really get what she was talking about, but it kind of hit home at that time as far as quality of life goes. And, we do a fair amount of traveling here, site visits, trade shows, et cetera. But it was really a godsend in that regard. And ColorID is a stand-up outfit. So that's kind of how it transitioned into healthcare. I figured I can learn anything. From data dumping, I don't have to remember the 5 parts of a white blood cell anymore, but I have to think about card technology and binary code.
Yeah, I love it. And you've been with ColorID for 12 years, if I read your LinkedIn correctly. And I'm curious, what sets ColorID apart? What just give people an overview. What do you guys do? What's your bread and butter, and what sets ColorID apart?
I think, the journey and the evolution in part is what sets us apart. We started out by selling ribbons. I think, post 9/11, our founding fathers there, Gary, Danny Smith, who are not related, by the way, saw the role that identification was going to play post 9/11. So they started to say, well, maybe we'll start selling ribbons for the badge printers. I don't know if you've ever read the kids' book, If You Give a Mouse a Cookie.
I read that to my kids.
Used to love that. That's awesome. So, we kind of started out with the ribbon thing. They said, well, maybe we should think about where those ribbons are used. So we got into badge printers. Kind of our tech support was kind of born from that. They're factory trained. They know what they're doing as far as different manufacturers go. And then we decided, well, shouldn't we think about what's being printed? So the card technology, getting into cards, our product management team was kind of born out of that, I think. And then you start talking about the software that's used to create those badges. So our engineering group kind of was born out of that. So now we're kind of an identity system integrator. It's identity management, it's visitor management, biometrics, and certainly badges. I think that was kind of our jam as we get into it. Our product management team has, maybe 50 years of combined experience when you talk about card technology and ID badge software. They have forgotten more than I'll ever know. But as I have to say, I know a guy, So I think, customer service has always been at the forefront. We're not a big box store. We answer the phone. If we don't get your designated account manager on the horn, we're going to get you over to somebody that can help you. As you mentioned, we're vertically aligned. So, healthcare, government and industry, higher education, which is one of our pillars, if you will, sports and entertainment as well. But they're all nuanced. And, I think being vertically aligned helps us better understand some of those nuances. And to that end, we take a consultative approach. I'm very proud of that. We don't charge for consultations. We don't charge for tech support. Whether you bought a printer from us or not, I don't know if they want me saying that, but they're going to help. And really, no facility is the same. The workflow isn't the same. So the solutions really aren't either. We're manufacturer agnostic for the most part. So it's about trying to find those pieces that are going to work best for that particular situation. And I think at the end of the day, that does set us apart.
I really think it does. I remember when we were first starting out and we had built, an early version of our software. We started out in higher education. We started talking to the different, our customers and saying, who are your best partners? And time after time after time, ColorID came up and they're like, you have to work with ColorID. They're amazing. That's awesome. And so you guys really do have an amazing reputation. And I think that's a testament to your leadership. It's a testament to the approach that you've taken with customers, like really listening, consulting, and trying to find the best solution for your clients. So that has really stood out. And your customer, that's why early on we're like, we got to partner with ColorID. This is going to be go really well.
No, that means a lot. Thank you very much. And, manufacturers and vendors like yourselves are, what make us who we are at the end of the day. If we don't have that kind of partnership, we don't make anything for the most part, so it's important that we have a good understanding and good relationships with those folks.
And that leads me to my next question, which is, what makes a great partnership or partner in your mind? We are always looking for ways to add more value, to be a good partner. And I always like asking our partners, like, what in your mind with the experience that you've had, you probably work with tons of different vendors. What makes the best partners?
I think communication, collaboration. Sometimes those are kind of catchwords, if you will, or cliches, but it's the most important thing. I mean, even within our office space, getting over to be able to talk to product management, getting over to engineering or tech support there, and being able to communicate and also be able to react quickly, be nimble on our feet, if you will. But, as far as conversations like, Tyler and ourselves, we have a monthly conversation just to make sure we're keeping up on the customer's needs, timelines involved, what integrations might be involved, which could be an important and time-consuming piece. So I think communication is key. And there are a lot of them out there, a lot of manufacturer reps, but we have an open door policy to make sure, open door, come on in.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like, I feel like it just comes back to the basics, right? It's like being honest, communicating well, being easy to work with. Like, these are all things that, we should have been taught very early on. And sometimes I just think in the pressure of business and, you can forget about just, be easy to get a hold of, communicate well, be a fun person to work with. A lot of those things go a
director of sales. She was Australian, as a matter of fact, so I love the accent. And I think we were at a national sales meeting, and she was kind of pontificating and saying, what's the most important thing? And her conclusion was, it's the relationship, stupid. It's about having those relationships. And without those, you're not going to move a lot of things forward in a seamless way.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so thinking about healthcare, obviously there's been a lot of change. It seems, with COVID, put a lot of stress on, the healthcare system. Our world is increasingly becoming more and more digital. So, and I think a lot of people have this perception of healthcare of like, oh, it's kind of stuck in the past. It's not as innovative as other verticals. So I'm curious, what trends are you seeing in healthcare? As you've had, a lot of experience in that industry, what things are you seeing as trends in that space?
I think, they may be behind from some technological pieces. It's not the want to. I think it's just some of the challenges. Maybe better than half of the healthcare facilities we work with are non-for-profit, so budgets
Mm-hmm.
are important. And I think that's a testament to ColorID as well, as laying out a roadmap, a migration path. You're here now. We want to get you here. How do we go about doing that? So you're seeing a lot more folks wanting to go to a secure card technology, right? From a low frequency procs to an encrypted technology like CIOS or iClass, on the HID side. Automating workflows, certainly on the education side as well. In fact, I was just talking to a colleague of mine, Sean, that you have all these siloed pieces, gymnasiums to dormitories to what have you, and that you want to have that one card solution, but they're very much siloed, and that takes time. So you're seeing a concerted effort, I think, in automating workflow. IT is much more involved maybe than they once were. Physical access, logical access. I mean, certainly cybersecurity is a huge thing. Mobile credentials is something, again, I think you can start seeing coming down the line, if you will. So,
and are you seeing?
There's just a lot of challenges involved with that, but
yeah, I was gonna ask you a follow up on that, because there are some people who believe, like, man, mobile credentials, it's going to be a long time before healthcare starts to adopt that technology. And with you being boots on the ground, are you seeing any indication that these healthcare systems, healthcare institutions are ready to adopt mobile?
I think, again, it's a lot of the legacy readers that are in place. So, to get to an upgraded technology on the card side, on the mobile credential side, that's one piece of it. Is a facility might have 600 legacy readers and they're a gung-ho. Well, once you start pricing out some of those pieces to get there, again, that migration path. So we recommend starting smaller. We even have some like startup kits, right? Let's say we do 20 mobile credentials and a couple of readers, and we'll put it in a spot that might make the most sense in a healthcare facility, and see how that works out. Visitor management, I think, is another piece where I see mobile credentials coming into play, depending on, again, where the readers are, where the doors are. One of the challenges in the healthcare side is it's meant to be, or has meant to be, kind of open door, be able to walk in, get to where you're going. This day and age, it's a little scarier. You don't necessarily want somebody to be able to walk in the hospital and go right over to security or go right up to a person's room without being challenged one way or another. But they also want it to make it easier, have that flow feel good. I think most people understand that and want to be secure, but they're also very cognizant of making it as easy as possible while remaining as secure as possible. And again, those are challenges that, we're up against on that side.
Yeah, for sure. It's a lot of times it seems like security and simplicity and ease are at war with one another, right? Where it's like the more secure you make this facility, just the harder it is to get through the doors and to, get to where you need to go inside the building. And I think this next, this next crop of technologies is really about, okay, how do we keep it secure? It's got to be secure, right? That's table stakes. But like, how do we bring the ease into the workflow where you can just seamlessly get to where you need to go inside the building? So that's definitely a trend that I'm seeing.
Yeah, facial recognition. I mean, healthcare, again, we see a lot of stuff that are contactless. And the Morpho wave, you can kind of wave a hand through there. Multi-factor authentication, facial recognition, all those things from a hygiene standpoint are certainly very cool. But again, it's when the International Healthcare Safety and Security folks there, they're really engaged and they talk all the time. And of course, workplace violence should be maybe at the top of those things, but it's something they're talking about all the time. I was talking to a security director a while back, and he's like, it's one thing to get everybody together is like corralling cats. And then once you get them together, you tell them you got to take a bath, and cats don't like water on that side. So, that's a challenge in and of itself. Guess what? It's going to be X amount of dollars. So I think just putting that plan in place, but the want to is certainly there, and that's encouraging. People are
Yeah.
putting paths together to get forward, and visitor management, even for their own staff.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. Okay, I want to shift gears to rebadges.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've worked together on at least a few of those rebadges, and it seems like ColorID is involved in a lot of rebadges. People wanting to. And I guess maybe that's my first question is like, what are you seeing as like the biggest trigger of like what is causing an institution to decide to rebadge their workforce?
I think it's a plethora of things. You have a lot of acquisition and consolidation going on in healthcare. So as soon as somebody changes their name from X or somebody else purchases them, that's going to trigger a rebadge. Making minute changes, again, changing from a medical center to healthcare or a health opposed to healthcare, even can trigger those type of things. Sometimes it's just about wanting to get new pictures in place. And, I talk to people like, good Lord, this, it's been 10 years since we've got any new pictures. And most of the staff is okay with that, as you might imagine. Doesn't look anything like them, but happy to have that, as I probably would be too. So when that comes about, oftentimes, and regardless of size, you see maybe the first go around, they'll want to do it in-house. So sometimes the first inkling we might have, depending on who our contact is, hey, we need to order X amount of badges. And you're like, well, that's an inordinate amount. You doing we're doing a rebadge. Generally, when they do a large facility, do it in-house once, they'd rather not do it again, just because it takes a lot of time. And you get into the data probably is the most challenging thing, gathering of photos, and not to put the cart in front of the horse, but that's one of the really slick things in the remote photo side that I like is it can be stood up quickly. So even when they come to me and say, hey, we're getting ready to rebadge. Well, are you collecting pictures? Yeah, we're going through it. We're either emailing or they're coming in and we're doing, remote stations, whatever the case may be. So it's taxing.
Yeah. We've seen,
again,
yeah, it's like, we've seen that's a big constraint with rebadges is capturing those photos. Like it's easy to get your, maybe easy is not the right word, but it's people look at like, oh, we have the printers, we have the software. And for whatever reason, photos kind of just hides in the background. And then they realize, oh crap, we got to we got to get new photos for these badges. So sometimes they just punt, right? They just say, you know what, whatever, we're just going to use the old photos. And other times they're like, oh, what are we going to do? And there's the photos become the constraint for actually finishing the project.
Well, it certainly provides a hurdle, an obstacle. Even when you're, some folks that are still doing the same thing today when they're onboarding, and hey, email us a picture. I don't know if you've seen, but I'm sure you have a lot of different types of pictures coming across. Whether there's sunglasses or they ask for a white background, it's a blue background, and there's like holding a cat, whatever the case may be. So there's challenges there as well. Getting the data into those spaces is a real challenge. And as I said before, oftentimes you've got a dual-pronged approach here. You've got HR and security handling some of this. Rebadging, it's on a much larger scale. So oftentimes, they'll come the next time around and say, hey, boy, we'd like to look into outsourcing that rebadge. So collecting photos, as I said, with remote photo, it can be stood up quickly. You guys can do some really slick things as far as branding and that sort of thing. But in a pinch, if we need to get something going in 4 days up and running, it's been done, which is awesome. Beyond that, you guys have a really high retention rate. So even when it comes in a rebadge situation where it's really helpful to do their rebadge after the fact, folks are keeping it. Right? They start seeing the advantage to, and I'll say for a couple systems, the onboarding experience is as important as anything. They want that first touch with the new hire to be as pleasant as possible. We have a local provider that at one point they were, hey, you had to go out to the, near the airport, get your picture taken or pick up your badge before you did anything else. They recognized that maybe wasn't the, most seamless piece. So sometimes it's as a result of a rebadge or what have you. Sometimes it's just they want their experience for their new hires, which I thought is very cool, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're seeing the same thing. I think it's interesting what you said. Sometimes these organizations they'll try to do the rebadge in house, and then when it's time to do it again, they experience enough pain from trying to do it themselves. They say, okay, we're going to outsource this. So what does that look like? Like if they were to work with ColorID, what would that look like in an outsource situation? Someone comes to you and says, you know what, ColorID, you guys handle this. How does that look? How does
Either
that
way,
work?
the data and the photos, those are the biggest things. So oftentimes, whether they're doing it in-house or farming it out, sometimes the data hasn't been scrubbed in years, decades. So they have to go through each one, be able to clean that out and send it over to us in a manageable format. We don't, we're kind of neurotic around here. We've seen and done enough things that we like things to be in such a way so that it eliminates chances for errors, issues. So, we'll have the data, which each one of the fields that needs to be printed, the employee ID number, and then the JPEG for the picture, or at least the related files, those get sent over. And then it's every aspect of the badge itself. So, oftentimes you're going to have that photo, the fields, but there may be a mag stripe on the back. There might be a barcode that's being printed. We will have them print a physical badge if there's new templates and send it to us, recreate that badge so that any cards they print afterwards are going to look exactly the same as we do. And all printers are different. So our service bureau, they have a fleet of printers back there. And we are very neurotic to make sure that we send out physical proofs that they test every aspect of that badge. We're going to print the barcode. We're going to send out, if it has, and most do, a chip inside the card, make sure they test it on every application. And again, sometimes you might just think it's for readers. Well, no, they're using it for time clocks. They're using it for cafeteria. We want to make sure that every single thing works before we move into the production piece. So the data and the photos, by far. I remember speaking with a gentleman who's up in Iowa, and his brother came into town. He used to work at the hospital. They went out to lunch, and they come back, say hello to a few people. And the brother's like, hey, let me try my badge. And it worked, which is not good. 2 years later. So right. Automation,
identity management is important.
Yes,
right?
Sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. But that's a scary piece. But I digress. So, chips, barcodes, mag stripes, even the aspect ratio of the picture. Once you get marketing folks involved, they can be particular. So they want things a certain way. Even the size of the logo, the PMS colors of the logo, that need to match up as best they can. So there's a lot of pieces that go into it, even in-house, whether or not you're doing both. But again, that's where the remote photo piece comes into play. The data side, some of the integrations that you're starting to see. If you want, speaking like our cloud suite, if you want to be able to hook up to Workday, bring that information in, take it in, send it over to the access control system so they can set permissions. You often have folks that are just type it in. They might have 30 hires one day. They email it over to security and say, hey, please, can you roll these guys? So there's a lot of manual pieces in play. Same thing with rebadges, a lot of manual pieces in play.
And that's where I'm excited to deliver a solution, with the help of ColorID and our partners that can automate as much of the rebadge process as we can, because I see all these manual workflows. I'm like, man, we could make this so much easier. And so I think I'm excited for that, because I think we're going to be able to deliver something, and we are even today, but a Absolutely. More and more automated workflow where someone can put a rebadge, on autopilot, if you will. And I remember talking to a client, and they're like, yeah, we just haven't been able to rebadge because it's going to be so much work. And the effort that it takes to get everybody to take a new photo and get all the data cleaned up and sent out. And they're like, well, now with, with this solution, we could do a rephoto or a rebadge every couple of years if we wanted to. That might get expensive, but I think what we're doing together is we're enabling a more secure, and simple workflow where you can get an updated photo and updated card technology, every 3 to 5 years if you wanted.
Yeah, and you're seeing some of the facilities I know have kind of a standard in place that we're going to rebadge every 5 years just so we can keep our 3 years, just so we can keep the pictures current. And identification in healthcare is paramount as far as that goes. I mean, joint commissions get in, when you're talking about roll tags and different things on that side. They can be neurotic about their badges flipping over, so they'll print pictures on both sides to make sure, again, people can be seen. They know exactly who they're talking to within a facility. And I agree, the seamlessness does hold people back on that side, and thinking about the amount. And truth be told, when you're talking about badging in general, security, HR, nobody's raising their hand saying, yes, please, may I do that? But if you make it easy enough and seamless enough, there's not a lot of griping behind it. There's not a lot of mistakes behind it. There's really a return on investment, I think, when you talk about the time involved with just, again, emailing, 30 people on for onboarding and sending it over, typing it in, doing the permissions, setting the roles, all that good stuff. So to be able to automate that at some point, you can present an ROI that is pretty compelling.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's 100%. Thinking about rebadges, what have you seen has made, rebadges successful? Obviously, I'm sure you've seen, some bumps along the road, but I'm sure you've seen some really successful rebadges. What kind of separate the two apart?
Well, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before: clear communication, collaboration, really on both sides. As I said, we're kind of neurotic about what we want to see, time frames going in, and ensuring that the other side, again, when we send out that physical proof, to make sure that they're testing every aspect. We've had one years ago where I think there was an asterisk in one of the Excel sheets for an ID badge, employee ID number. So they went to they didn't test it on the payroll. They tested on a couple other things. Well, it wasn't set up correctly. But that's why we do it. So, the first batch goes out, it's not working. So we had to go back through. We found out, of course. So now we have an extra protocol in place, and we're big on protocols around here. But like I said, clear expectations as far as the needs go. And they don't always love when we say, we got to come back and make sure you have the data. We don't really want to be playing around with other people's data, nor should they really want us to on that side. So as long as we have clear expectations going up front, a lot of back and forth communication and timeline for us, we could pool enough resources. So when you say it's January 15, we need to have cards in hand by March 15th. Well, how many folks are we talking? 600? Are we talking 6,000? Generally, we can pool enough resources together to hit whatever timeline might be in place. But we're realistic as well. Sometimes cards themselves come into play. But I would say clear communication, good data, and good testing.
And it seems like people often forget about the management, like the project management aspect of a rebadge. Right? You think rebadge is like, oh, we'll just do a rebadge. Well, someone's got to manage the project, right, and keep it on track. And then the other part that I think gets missed is like distribution. Great, we printed all these cards, we got the photos, we have clean data. Well, how are we gonna distribute these cards? How are we gonna get them in the hands of the right people? And talk to me about that. Like, what does that normally look like? Is that a shared responsibility between ColorID and the customer? How have you guys worked through that?
Yeah, it can be. It can be. Depending on the number of facilities, and oftentimes you will have 6 or 7 different places that we're rebadging all at the same time. The easiest way we found really is to say, hey, send us the data in the way that you would like them printed. We can even have another field for location. We'll sort and package those accordingly and then ship them to the different locations. Generally, when again we get that data, we'll return a sheet that has the corresponding ID badge number on it. Some access control systems will allow them to import that in a bulk scale. So many will not. So, still typing. We've been asked, hey, can you come on site and enter them into our access control system? We said, no, that's really not our bag. But we'll do anything we can from a distribution standpoint. But again, I think it boils down to the data. It can get, if you have, 10 names going to one place, the next 10 names going to the other, it's a nightmare. So usually it just needs to be sorted, and that's our recommendation there. But no, we're happy to sort it in any which way they want, ship it to the different locations. As long as we've got the proof in place and everybody signed off on, we go to production, and that's our thing. And our guys are really good about hitting timelines. If we have to bring in extra staff, we've done that before, some, large scale rebadges.
Yeah.
You're talking about larger health systems. So.
And is that data, you mentioned the data a couple of times, is that coming from their HR system or their access control system? Is it a mix of both? I mean, are they sending that in a flat file? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, it can be in a CSV file or what have you, just a simple Excel spreadsheet, depending. You're essentially just doing fields. So the access control, not so much, because usually we're providing new badges with the new ID badge numbers, if you will, the internal program chip. So that's not as much of a concern. Most of it is coming from the HR side as far as the database goes. And again, that's where, have we been cleaning that up as we go along? So that's kind of the first thing I discuss when I hear somebody says we're doing a rebadge, and I say, well, have you looked at your data lately? And then getting it out there in an easy way really depends on the institution and how they're set up. Some of the old legacy systems aren't as easy to work with in that regard. But generally, yes, it's, list Bill, Tom, Susan, first name, last name, department, and then we're matching up those fields in the template itself as far as where the barcode itself, and that's really just an employee ID number expressed as a barcode. The chip, mag stripe, same thing. If you're encoding the number into the mag stripe itself, that's going to be another field. And as I said, we'll return that back with the corresponding ID badge number so that they can type and say, oh, Bill Smith is ID badge number 1222. So yeah, it's relative, but most of it I think comes probably from their HRIS side.
That makes sense. Well, I can, you guys obviously have a ton of expertise in this space, and it's super valuable. I mean, I have talked to plenty of clients, mutual clients who are just like, man, this was such a thorn in my side, and we've been able to pull off a rebadge successfully. And I think, you think about it, right? Like, these are security professionals and HR professionals who have a normal day job, right? It's not like they can put their everyday responsibilities on hold, on pause during this rebadge. It's like, I want you to keep doing your job and all the responsibilities associated with that, and do a rebadge on top of it. And, you ask a lot of these people. And so I think there's a real pain point there that we're solving. And,
oh, absolutely. It's a Herculean task when you think about it. I mean, even, a lot of healthcare facilities may only have one printer. Some may have 3 or 4, some of the larger facilities, but it puts a large strain.
Yes.
I was working with somebody where we brought in all their printers, did a tune up, make sure we cleaned, lubricated, so that they wanted to continue to do that in-house. We're happy to have them do that. So, if you're throwing 15,000 prints onto a particular printer, this thing's starting to smoke after a while. Not really. Again, it can be a lot
on that system. Yeah.
And as you said, I mean, the amount of time and the labor involved can be a lot. And it's a stress on HR. It's a stress on sometimes facilities, certainly security. And, it's not necessarily what they signed up for. But of course, we all do things that we didn't necessarily sign up for, right?
Absolutely. Okay. Well, shifting gears a little bit, I want to look towards the future. What are you excited about in your role? When you think about ColorID and then in the next couple of years, what are you excited about?
I think the evolution of technology, I mean, heck, I was around when analog phones were still there. We moved over to digital technology. Now you're seeing some of the things here that wasn't that long ago that facial recognition really wasn't that great. It's pretty good now. It's doing its thing. So, I think the evolution of technology, of course, is exciting, and it's growing by leaps and bounds daily, it seems like. Our card exchange cloud platform, from an identity management standpoint, can be a very powerful tool, and is proving to be a very powerful tool when you're talking about managing an identity lifecycle going through. The AI thing, of course, that's almost a cliche thing as well, but something you guys utilize, not a big deal. I talked to my youngest, which, I'm good enough to go chat GPTs. I often tell I'm not technologically challenged, but I'm sometimes technologically resistant. I'm old school in some ways, but I mean, it's unbelievable what you're seeing and what you can do with AI. And I think it's only going to get better. And, I listened to a talk, I think it was at a Stadium Managers Association talking about a gentleman who used to be a professor at NYU and big AI guru. But the one take, oh my God, he's like, AI it's not good or bad. It's how you use it, how you want to go, how you use it. Mm-hmm. And I think that was one of my main takeaways. I mean, it can be really powerful. Just how about, how you go about using it. So I think those are some of the things I'm most excited about. Mobile credentials, some of the readers, that you're coming out now, HID is the Signo that allows you to go to those, the encrypted high frequency technologies along with mobile credentials. Certainly in the education space, that's a huge thing for the young kids coming through. Some of the older generation, maybe not as much. They don't want to screw around with mobile credentials. I mean, you still have to have that piece. I was at Atrium Health a while back for an appointment and came in, and they have the visitor management. They have a line that you can go through. But, if you wanted to pre-register, if you want to use your QR code to be able to do that. So I think still, those pieces are still necessary. But I'm excited about what the future holds, not only in healthcare, just really in the card identification business.
Nice catch, by the way.
Yeah, thank you very much.
For those listening, the earbud fell out, and Grant just caught it mid-sentence. That was impressive. It was funny. Well, there was an episode we did with Angie from Evalon. It was episode number 3, and she had this fly that came into the frame, and it was a huge fly too, so you could see it, and it's just buzzing around her head. And I was like, all right, let's just pause. You go kill that fly, and then we'll restart. So
did she use chopsticks? Okay.
I don't know how she killed it. I don't think she killed it. I think she just let it, fly away, and just go out the window. So
God love her that she has more patience than I do.
Yeah, I would have smashed that thing.
Would have been game on at that point. So.
Yeah, get the fly swatter out.
That's right.
All right. I got 2 more questions for you. If you could go back to your 18-year-old self, what advice would you give young, handsome Grant back in the day?
Yeah, young, handsome Grant. I was the youngest of 6 kids. Kind of a late bloomer coming through. And something I talk to my children about now. They're 25 and 21 at this point. But you're going to have pain from discipline, or you're going to have pain from disappointment. And you'd rather have the pain from discipline, So, I have 1 or 2 regrets in the past there growing up. But I wish I would have had more discipline early on versus the pain from the disappointment aspect, or not being as prepared as one might want to be. That's probably in part some of the advice.
It's really good.
Did a good job marrying the wife that I have now. So I met her right when I was 18. So I did really well there. Nice.
That's a huge win for sure.
Yeah,
Agreed. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. Last question. Do you have a book, movie, or podcast recommendation that you would, you'd recommend?
A book I'm reading now is called, it sounds kind of dry. It's called Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind. We get Yuval Harari. as the author on that side. But it's really quite interesting, and as you might assume, Sapiens kind of going through and shocker, we didn't always do well for a lot of the other species as we migrated to different places. A lot of the other species kind of weren't around anymore. So, from a business standpoint, I mean, you can't go wrong with Maxwell, inspirational guy.
Yeah.
Look, some about, there's no ethics or no such thing as business ethics. And it really is kind of the opposite. It's more about, being able to have some ethics in the sales industry, if you will. And, I always tell people I'm a salesperson with a conscience. I need to be able to sleep at night. So, I think that's another reason that ColorID fits so well for me. We always do right by the customer at the end of the day. Movies overall. I loved Good Will Hunting. I thought that was a really cool story back in the day. There was a movie called Usual Suspects. I watched it again with my children. Wasn't as good as it was back in '97. I thought it was a really good twist, good twist, good crime drama. Kaiser Soze. I haven't done any podcasts. You have any good podcasts that you might recommend?
Oh man, I have been listening to what is the podcast? Well,
we get Bill Burr a couple times back in the day. Bill Burr was funny. That was probably the last one somebody recommended. But I listen to a lot of music. I don't listen to as many podcasts. Probably less books and more periodicals these days. I used to be kind of a voracious reader. I should get back into doing more of that. But
yeah, I actually this time of year I've been listening to because I follow sports, the playoffs. So I've been listening to Colin Cowherd. He hosts a few different podcasts, so I always find his commentary interesting. And he's definitely a polarizing guy, but
he very much is. Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with him. He was on the Steelers quite a bit this last year, probably for good reason. And there's a lot to be able to talk about with Aaron Rodgers and Tomlin and so on. But he's a great orator, to say the least.
Yeah, no doubt. One day we'll have this podcast it'll be as big as probably not, but
I think it could be.
Rebadges, you never know. I think we don't have quite the topic, I think, to go viral, but you do gain a respect for these guys and how well they are, how well they do on the mic, and okay, how do you fill up 3 hours of content? They do a 3-hour show every day, and manage to somehow, you talk for a living, and it's just amazing they can fill up that much time. So you gain an appreciation for sure.
Oh, to say the least. Yeah. Well, we're running toward an hour anyway. That's not too shabby.
Yeah, we did great. And Grant, thank you so much for your time and joining us. I know it's valuable, and I really appreciate your insights, and you guys are a great partner. So thank you for joining us.
It's very much my pleasure. And the same goes for yourself. We really enjoy and respect the partnership we have with you guys. I think you do a phenomenal job. As I said, the retention rate that you have, speaks for itself. And, change is painful. So, as we get people to move along there, I see a really nice snowball effect. So I appreciate it, Luke. And I thank you again for having me.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we will catch everybody next time on the next episode. Thank you so much.